Right. Now, I did tell you guys, Roger Meadows mentioned this to me, the National Low Income Housing Coalition. We need to talk about the cost of living in this country. I'm going to show you tonight. This is the new report for 2022, how much you should be making depending on which state you live in. And the results may shock you. Let's go ahead and get into it. So here we are, the high cost of housing. Let's start with, we'll get to the problem after. How much do you need to earn to afford a modest apartment in your state? Now, I want to point out a couple of things with this map here. According to the legend, a light blue is below $17 an hour. Medium blue, $17 to $23 an hour. And this darker blue here is above $23 an hour. Now, this is to afford a 2-bedroom rental home by state. What's cool about this is you can actually click on each state and get more details. So I'm actually going to start with the most expensive state here, which is Hawaii. Now, as you can see, Hawaii is first. It is the highest housing wage. So this is important for people to see. In the state of Hawaii, you need to make $40.63 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental home. You need to work 161 hours a week. So if you click on more info here, I know that sounds insane, but they kind of break it down for you. Right now, the current minimum wage in Hawaii is $10.10 an hour. You would need to work 123 hours to afford a modest 1-bedroom rental home at fair market rent if you are making $10.10 an hour. Now, if you go over here, you can see the breakdown. They tell you $10.10 an hour, 2-bedroom housing wage, you really need $40.63 an hour. Now, I don't know if anyone in the chat here lives in Hawaii, but if you do, are you making at least $40.63 an hour? Most people are probably not, right? So this is the difference between a minimum wage and a living wage. So I was actually surprised to see that Hawaii is only $10.10 an hour, to be honest with you. I was really surprised by that. Minimum wage worker in Hawaii right now is making $525 a month. That's crazy. Like, how do you even... Okay, I'm not going to go through every single thing, but this is something that you need to know, that Hawaii is number one for housing cost. It's the highest. And their minimum wage is only $10.10 an hour. Now we're going to go back. Someone told me to click on California. Surprisingly, with California, well, I guess not surprisingly, they are second when it comes to the highest housing wage. In California, you need to make $39.01 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental home. That's 104 hours a week. So you guys see where we're getting at here? Obviously, people shouldn't be working over 100 hours a week. But if you want to make a decent living, a living wage in California, that is what you would need to do if you are making this amount. This is the problem. This is why people can't get out of poverty. This is why people get stuck. So if I clicked on more info here in California, the current minimum wage in California is $15 an hour. That's not even half of what it should be in order for you to afford a 2-bedroom housing. And by the way, that means 2-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom house. Most likely in this case, you'll probably only be able to get an apartment if we're talking about California. So that's not even half, you guys, of what you really would need. When you look at the number of rental households, the number of people who are below 30% AMI, fair market value is over here. Like, this is crazy. This is crazy. At $15 an hour each week, you have to work 83 hours to afford a modest 1-bedroom. You have to work 83 hours a week if you're making minimum wage in California and you want a modest 1-bedroom. In other words, you would have to have 2 jobs and maybe some other gig on the side. I'm not kidding. This should not happen in a country as wealthy as the United States. This is why a lot of people still have roommates. This is why a lot of people still have 2 and 3 roommates going into their 30s. Because how can you live off this? You can't. Now that's California. I'm going to hop around a little bit here. Now we're going to go over to my state here of Massachusetts. And Eric, please put the link for this for people in the chat if they want to check this on their own. My state of Massachusetts is 3rd for the highest housing wage. I tried to tell you guys it's expensive here. Sometimes people think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. It's expensive. 3rd highest housing wage in Massachusetts. You need to make $37.97 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental home. That's 107 hours a week. Let's check out the stats. The current minimum wage in Massachusetts is $14.25. That's a part of that $15 minimum wage that was going to increase as the years go on. So we haven't hit the 15 just yet. If you are making $14.25 an hour, you need to work $87 a week in Massachusetts to afford a 1-bedroom rental home. And what this is constantly showing you, ladies and gentlemen, is that Americans are overworked. If you are making minimum wage in this country, a lot of times you probably either have 2 jobs or you're overworked at the 1 job that you do have. And then you still probably have to have roommates. This is why people can't get out of poverty. This is what they've been doing to us, you guys. Let's go back over. This is really sad. If you are making minimum wage in Massachusetts, you're making $741 a month. That doesn't even cover rent. I'm not being, I'm not exaggerating here, but like on the real, for most people, that won't cover half of your rent. If you're in the Boston area, forget that. So people are not making enough to live off of. They're not making enough. And so for fun and giggles here, I'm going to go to Florida because I know it's a lot of people in Florida in the chat. Florida is ranked 12th for highest housing wage. So in Florida, you need to make $26.38 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental home. That would be 106 hours per week. Looking at the details here, the minimum wage in Florida is $10 an hour. So again, if you want a 2-bedroom, you would need to make $26.38 an hour. So at $10 an hour in Florida, you would need to work 86 hours a week just to have a 1-bedroom. Now that's supposed to be the retirement state. Isn't that sad? Florida is becoming more expensive. I saw today on Twitter, actually, before I went live, that Nico House had posted on Twitter that they just increased his rent $400 in Florida. How are people still retiring in Florida if this is the cost of living now? Because they're on a fixed income. That's why I ask. JB says, yep, I'm in Orlando. This is crazy. Like, really, this doesn't make any sense. So minimum wage workers in Florida are making $520 a month. This is why when people say you need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, I'm like, bro, no straps. And this is the most recent report. This is the one that came out for this year. Now, again, you have to remember these dark blue states. These are the higher ones. And there's something else I want to point out about these states as well. And I think you guys are going to make the connection anyway. Let's, for shits and giggles, let's go to, did they put DC on here? They did. DC. Whoopsie. Washington, D.C., fifth highest housing wage. In D.C., you need to make $34.33 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental home. That's 85 hours a week. Details. Currently, the minimum wage in D.C. is $16.10 an hour. To get a 1-bedroom in D.C., you need to work 17 hours. 75 hours. Do you see this? This is exactly why people don't get ahead. Who's doing this? And now I want to tell you, please keep in mind, this is just to afford the housing. This doesn't include other things, like if you have to pay for daycare. This is assuming that you are single and nobody wants you. And you're just paying for your housing. I don't know, looking back on it, I don't know how I did it. I really don't. Let's look at another one. I'm going to pick another southern state because I want to be fair. Let's go to, I did DC, so I probably shouldn't do Virginia. I know Virginia's going to be high. Let's go to Tennessee. So Tennessee is 33rd for the highest housing wage. In Tennessee, you would need to make $18.30 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental home. Even in Tennessee, you still need to make more than 15. You guys see a trend here? You still need to make over that $15 an hour. You would need to work 101 hours a week. And if we go into details here, right now, the current wage in Tennessee is $7.25 an hour. It's the federal minimum wage. You would need to work 85 hours to afford a modest 1-bedroom rental home. That's in Tennessee, and Tennessee has a lower cost of living. Now, luckily, Tennessee doesn't have income tax, if I remember correctly. Yes, they don't do income tax there, but still, this is why when we had that fight for 15 and we're like, yes, we need to fight for $15 minimum wage. This is why now I'm looking at this. This really wouldn't have made a difference. It really wouldn't have helped people. It helped a little bit, but it still wouldn't put you where you need to be to have a decent living. Because even in Tennessee, you still need more than that $15 an hour. Let's go back. Someone said Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, oh, Puerto Rico, oh, black people, oh, Puerto Rico, 52nd highest housing wage. In Puerto Rico, you need to make $9.66 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental home. You would need to work 45 hours a week. That's it. Everybody, let's pack our bags. We're moving to Puerto Rico. Let's go. Let's go. Let's everybody pack your shit. Let's go. Let's get out there now. That's where we got to be. Puerto Rico. Because look, $9.66 an hour, 45 hours a week. Bro, that's for a 2-bedroom. More info. So if If you're in Puerto Rico, the minimum wage is $8.50 an hour. In Puerto Rico, $8.50 an hour. You need to work 40 hours to get a modest one bedroom. Listen, let's gas up the jet and go. That's where we got to be. I'm serious. This is the moment. Puerto Rico, here we come. What? Let's do one more. And then I'm going to show you the education connection with all of this as well. I feel like I should pick another state here. Should I go in the middle? Let's do Colorado, maybe. Let's go with Colorado. That's Utah. Well, damn. Did I click on the wrong one? That's Illinois. How did I get there? Okay, here we go. Colorado is 8th in highest housing. In Colorado, you would need to make $28.94 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental. You'll need to work 92 hours a week. A little bit more detail about Colorado. So the current minimum wage is $12.56 an hour. Okay. You would need to work 75 hours to afford a modest 1-bedroom in Colorado. Damn, Denver has been, you know what? I think Denver has made Colorado expensive. Jesus. So minimum wage workers there are making $653 a month. Yikes. Let's do one more. Let's do Maryland. And then I got to get to the education part. Okay, this is Maryland. Maryland is 9th highest housing wage. That's 9th. $28.93 an hour. You would need to make that in Maryland to get a 2-bedroom rental home. That's 93 hours of work per week. Now, a little bit of detail here. In Maryland, the minimum wage is $12.50. So they're probably on that same $15 track that we were on in Massachusetts. You would need to work 78 hours to afford a modest 1-bedroom rental home in Maryland. You guys noticing the trend? Most of these places are saying you have to work more than 40 hours a week. It's terrible. So the minimum wage worker there is making $650 a month. Let's go to one more is Arizona. This one should be interesting. Arizona is 18th highest housing wage. So that's number 8. That's 18th. You need to make $23.44 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental home in Arizona. That's 73 hours a week. More info. Let's get a little bit more detailed here. Currently, the minimum wage in Arizona is $12.80 an hour. You would need to work 60 hours a week to afford a modest 1-bedroom rental home. That's probably one of the lowest amount of hours that we've seen with the states that we've checked so far, with the exception of Puerto Rico. 60 hours a week. Minimum wage worker there is making $666 a month. Wow. Now, there's a connection here that I want to show you as well. I think this is important for people to see. Am I doing the problem first? Okay. Let's break down the problem, the solution, and the education issue. Here's the problem. Again, this is still on that same site. Why we care. The problem. Housing shortage, homelessness, housing poverty, and underfunded programs. 6.8 million more affordable housing units are needed for extremely low-income families. Homelessness. 583 plus people are experiencing homelessness on any given night. Housing poverty. 70% of all extremely low-income families pay more than half their income on rent. Underfunded programs. 1 in 4 extremely low-income families who need assistance receive it. Only 1 in 4. Record-breaking numbers of families cannot afford a decent place to call home. This is crazy. There is a shortage of more than 7 million affordable homes for our nation's 10.8 million plus extremely low income families. View the gap. The gap. No state has an adequate supply of affordable rental housing for the lowest income renters. You guys see this? Not one. Let me look at the legend here. Red is 30 or fewer. Dark yellow is 30 to 31 to 40. Mid yellow is 41 to 45. And the soft yellow here is 46 or greater. Of course, Massachusetts, we would be in the soft yellow. Jesus. Over 300,000 number of extremely low income renter households, 47 number of affordable and available rental homes per 100 extremely low income renter households, 60% extremely low income renter households with severe cost burden. I told you guys, we have a significant wealth gap in Massachusetts. Now you see it. Man, this is brutal. Now, I also want to tell you the solution, because I don't like to just talk about the problem. There's a couple of things that can be done. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I think Eric put the link in the chat for you guys to see. The solution: protect and expand the National Housing Trust Fund. That's one of the things that can be done. Another, preserve and increase resources for federal affordable housing programs. 3, ensure federal disaster recovery efforts are fair and equitable. Hello, Hurricane Katrina. Because I always point back to that, because I didn't feel like the disaster recovery efforts with Hurricane Katrina, I don't feel like they were fair or equitable. People were there for days before they got any type of help. Next, promote equitable access to affordable housing. Notice it's not equal access, equitable access. There's a difference between the two. Champion anti-poverty solutions. So there's a lot of information on this website. I don't have time to go through all of it tonight, but please check out this site, guys, because you can dive even deeper into this. But I want to show you the comparison when it comes to education rankings, because I think you're going to find something pretty interesting here. Now, when it comes to education, I'm going to show you something about these states. Let's look at pre-K. We're not going to do college, because not everybody can go to college, but everybody is supposed to do pre-K through 12. You're supposed to. Look at the rankings of the states with the education, you guys. This is public education. New Jersey is number 1. Massachusetts is number 2. Now, we used to be number 1. I guess we dipped somehow. Anyway, we want to look at this ranking over here, because that's how I sorted it. Pre-K through 12. New Jersey, Massachusetts is number 2. Connecticut is number 3. New Hampshire is 4. Vermont is 5. And you can go further down. 6 is Illinois. Colorado is number 7. Let's go ahead and stop there for a second, because there's something I want to show you. You notice the states that are like number 1, that are higher up when it comes to education rankings. You notice these are also expensive places to live. If you go back here to the map, again, I told you Massachusetts was 3rd with highest housing wage. It's expensive to live here. Let's look at New Jersey. I don't think I went to New Jersey on the other one. New Jersey is 7th highest housing wage. It's also expensive to live there. I saw Colorado in that top 7 list when it came to ranking education. Colorado, 8th highest housing wage. The exceptions, I think, are places like California is further down on this list, but I would say that California is more expensive, more so because of Hollywood, entertainment industry. California is ranked 40 when it comes through pre-K through 12 education, but it's still expensive because you're paying for, you have entertainment, you have Hollywood, celebrities, you also have what? The Silicon Valley, you have the tech companies over there, and the weather. So that's probably why California is so expensive. But when you look at some of these other states, the ones further at the top, this all makes sense. Like, basically, if you want your child to have what they're saying is the best education in the United States, then honey, you need to make some money if you're going to afford to live in these states, unless you were born here. Because technically, if you want your kids to go to the best like public schools, these are the states: New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut. I know Connecticut is expensive. New Hampshire is not, that's one of the exceptions. They're not as expensive, but they also have a smaller population. And since they have a smaller population, their teacher to student ratio is going to be smaller. Whereas if you go to a school like in North Carolina, your teacher student ratio may be, I don't know, 1 to 20 or 1 to 25. There are schools you can go to in New Hampshire where they literally have probably 7 or 8 people in the classroom. That makes a difference when it comes to education performance. The fewer students you have in the class, the more likely those students are going to do well in school, because the teacher can give them their undivided attention and they don't have to split themselves into so many pieces to try to help all those students in the class. That actually makes a difference. Smaller class sizes are a big plus. So this really is not fair. When we talk about equity, this piece is missing. We don't have equity here. Not everyone can afford to live in New Jersey or Massachusetts or Connecticut. Not everyone can afford. Vermont's also a little bit cheaper, but depending, they also have a lot of issues there in Vermont too, because they don't have as many doctors and dentists and stuff like that. They're trying to pay doctors and dentists to move to Vermont. Not everyone can afford to live in Colorado. There's Illinois, number 6. But this isn't right. This isn't right. Why are the best educated schools mainly in the Northeast? It makes me feel some kind of way. It's not fair. It really isn't. Where's Mississippi on this list? I'm going to do one more because I want to see something. I think Mississippi is probably almost right here. Mississippi 43. All right. I'm about to prove a point. Mississippi. Exactly what I thought. 49th highest housing wage. $15.67 an hour in Mississippi can get you a 2-bedroom rental. You'd still have to work 86 hours a week, though. Details. The minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, which is the federal minimum wage. You'd have to work 72 hours a week there to get a modest 1-bedroom. But the point that I'm trying to make is that the states that have a lower cost of living, like a Mississippi, also rank significantly lower when it comes to public education. And this, my friends, is on purpose. Property taxes is a big part of this. It's not fair. This is exactly why I've said before, they need to find a way to fund public schools instead of property taxes. Let the federal government fund those schools. But I hope this has been an educational moment for you guys tonight, because I really, I think this is the kind of stuff, I do want to talk about things like this more, because when we talk about like cost of living, I want people to really understand what I'm talking about when I say cost of living. I want to show you what you really need to live in the state that you live in, what you really should be making, not what they're paying you. Sad.